and accepted practices of the past will no longer apply, and human resource leadership must be prepared. In light of this, the Institute of Human Resource Management just concluded its 21st Annual National Human Resource Management Conference with its theme, "The Future is Today's Stretching of Human Resource Professionals." Now, joining me in studio is third Executive Director of the Institute of Human Resource Management, Mrs. Dorcas Wainaina. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Let's first begin with the fact that you are the first female director at the institution since its inception in 30 years ago. Does this in itself say that human resource has changed over the years?
I think it says that the society is recognizing the ability of women to lead, not necessarily in the human resources space. However, even in the human resource space, we now have directors actually leading institutions like the National Police Service Commission, that is IHR professional, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the CEO is IHR professional, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, the acting CEO is IHR professional. So we are making progress as HR itself.
So we're seeing a lot of women coming up into leadership positions.
Absolutely. Including in boards of corporations.
What are the current trends do you see in HR? What are employers and employees looking for?
Employers are looking for agility. They're looking for individuals or talent that is able to adapt and adjust to the changes in the market. For instance, a lot of the skills employers are looking for are individuals that are digitally knowledgeable, that are digitally capable, because the issues that we are dealing with are technologically motivated. Employees, on the other hand, are looking for a workspace that is family-friendly. They're looking for an environment that is less hierarchical. They're looking for an environment that is cognizant of their own needs. They're looking for an environment that is going to promote their own self-learning. They're not necessarily looking for money only. That is part of it. Each time you're interviewing, the question we get is, what are the learning opportunities? Everybody wants to grow. And so that is the future of the workplace. Individuals are looking for a place that recognizes them as individuals.
I came across a really interesting statistic that said that about 13% of those in the workforce globally are actually in the line that they had studied in. What does this say about the workforce?
The workforce must adjust and be more flexible. You can't be stuck to what you studied while the world is really changing. While I studied Bachelor of Education, for instance, I'm in HR today as we speak, but where the world is headed, I may not necessarily be just in HR, but I must acquire more skills, be more digitally savvy, do more work that is related to technology, and so that I can fit in. You cannot say that this is the line I followed and you're stuck there. The world is not stuck like that. That's why we talk about agility. In fact, one of the issues we were discussing at the conference is about HR professionals becoming more agile, learning more, embracing more, and being open to situations. But again, more being predictive. To be predictive, it means you are looking at the future and preparing for it from today.
I heard you mention something about technology and innovation. Speaking of, how is this changing the face of human resource?
You know, the future we are looking at, we are talking about a future that may not necessarily have a HR professional leading a team of 20 in a HR function. You know why? We can almost automate 90% of the work in HR. We can automate filing. We can outsource recruitment and talent sourcing. Performance management can actually be done by somebody else who would be seen as neutral to a process. And perhaps strategy is what you might not outsource. And so when we are talking about technology, if you look at issues to do with robotics, already in the world, if you're looking at Japan, Malaysia, etc., there are robotics that are carrying parcels and taking them and moving them and actually having them sent, except a human is simply touching a button for the robotic to do what they're supposed to do, and they don't get tired. That's where the world is going. And so we've got to think, how do we get individuals that can operate robotics, for instance?
That's really interesting that you bring that point out. How about social media? Because we've seen over the last couple of years, employers are actually monitoring and using social media as a way of sort of measuring, you know, potential employees. Is social media also playing a role?
Absolutely. I like to talk to the younger talent that are coming into the workspace. What you write in the social media will follow you for a long time.
And how you present yourself.
And how you present yourself. Right? They are always spewing vitriol in social media, and they think that that is okay, hiding behind that. What recruiters do now, they go into social media, they run, a search of your name, and they find and they say, I don't think this one will be a good one when we hire them. Sometimes the argument is that, that is just social media, but that's not really who I am. You can't separate who you are from what you spew in the social media platform. For the HR professionals, the question is always, have you defined guidelines and policies that guide usage of social media within your workspace? Remember, your employee is a brand of the employer. So they are the ambassadors of you as an employer. What they say, what the rest of us say, is that that employee of the IHRM Institute said XYZ. They don't remember to say Dorcas. It is what I say, I carry the name of my employer. Of course, they don't realize how much they impact that. They say they are going on, they are unwell, but we see photos of them in a beach, enjoying and happy. They come back, you are trying to admonish them. Do you have a guideline to follow back to when you're doing that? And these things have happened actually in workplaces. But it's about defining guidelines, policies to govern behavior of employees and how they use the social media. It's a good tool as well in marketing an employer, in marketing your products, in marketing your services, but within the confines of decorum.
That's really interesting. Let's talk about the conference that you just concluded.
Right.
What were some of the major findings that you had in terms of some of the challenges that human resource professionals are facing right now?
A major challenge, if I look at the professionals in the county government setup, for example, public service in general, but largely the county government setup, is that they are finding themselves stuck with a decision made arbitrarily by somebody who's an HR professional touching on employees, and now they are faced with a situation where they have got to clean up a mess already created. What are we saying as the Institute of Human Resource Management? We would like that the leadership in the county government consult the HR professionals who are trained and licensed by the Institute to run issues of human resource. That's why most of them are rushing to court. That's why they're incurring costs on litigation matters. That's why the courts are ordering them to reinstate those employees. In itself, it's not a good thing when employees are reinstated and already there is a breakdown in that relationship. The other challenge that we are facing within the professional HR fraternity is that we have diverse employees now in the workspace, different ages, obviously, and their preferences are different. And with different preferences, including in benefits, the younger ones would ask you, for instance, why do I need pension? I just need my money now, I want to buy that Range Rover. But the baby boomers who are in their 60s or late 50s are saying, but I need pension for my old age. The younger ones have different preferences. Are we going to continue to dictate on benefit offerings to employees wholesomely or uniform? No, we've got to rethink some of these processes. The other issues we are faced with as HR professionals now have to do with performance management and giving of feedback. Systems in the world have already changed. It's no longer about waiting for a whole year and then start to give feedback of something that happened last year in February. It's about immediate feedback. That rating of an employee, your score is 60 or 50 or 45, does not make sense. We've got to rethink those systems and processes. Digital skills, highly required in the workspace, whether it's county or otherwise. After all, when we have e-citizen, in which we now have got to download our own certificate of good conduct, that means somebody is behind the desk to make sure that that happens. If government has gotten there and everybody else in private sector thinks government is slower in these matters, then we must be aware that the world has changed.
And as you say, the world has changed. What does the future of human resource look like?
The future of HR is looking at a talent workforce that is looking for flexibility, that is looking for less hierarchy, that is looking for family-friendly spaces. That's why we are talking about issues to do with a breastfeeding bill that is asking for workspace where children are taken care of, isn't it? We are looking at a future of artificial intelligence. We're no longer going to rely on humans to keep telling us, oh, this is what we do here. But you just, at a click of a button of your phone, you're going to know what happens at IHRM. We just launched our IHRM app, the first membership institutions to own an app. And so you can go to Play Store and actually download the IHRM app. That's where we are headed. We don't need people asking what is IHRM doing, but we want somebody to press a button and understand what that is doing. That's the future that we are looking at, and we must prepare for that future, both public and private sector.
And finally, on that note, how do we prepare for that future?
We must continuously learn. 1. 2, we must have a workforce and HR professionals are predictive. We sit where we are today, but we must be looking at the future, what is going on, and we prepare for it today. We also must be HR professionals who are able to guide our CEOs and leaders to help them even define composition of their boards, because boards make decisions, but do they make decisions think about the future? And so that is how we all must prepare for the future. It's about continuous learning for sure and being predictive about the future so that we can be ready for it. What happens here is that the future comes and then we learn that there's automation going and there's massive layoffs. But if we were foreseeing the future, we couldn't have gotten into a situation like that.
And we saw that a lot, especially in banking and a lot of other sectors as well.
Yeah, it was not new, but now we have Ubers, we have riders who are delivering food at our doorsteps. Why is the law not ready to be changed to accommodate these employees who are riding borders to take food to offices? Why are we not thinking about Uber drivers who are employees essentially?
And how to manage those
absolutely,
employees.
And how to manage those employees into the future. We are looking at a future where individuals will be working from home. I don't think people will need buildings as offices, if you ask me.
Or necessarily have an 8 to 5 job.
Thank you very much. That kind of flexibility. We are looking at this, it's a gig economy, where people want to come and work for you for 3 hours and then go do something else with somebody else. That is the future we are looking at, whether we like it or not, but we must prepare for it. Our labor laws must start being redefined to take care of this future that we are heading to.
Very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for those insights.
Thank you, Maya.
And that was Mrs. Dorcas Wainaina, Executive Director of the Institute of Human Resource Management, just speaking on the evolution and future of human resources. Now let's take a look at other stories. Stanbic Bank Kenya has been ranked as the safest bank in Kenya. This is according to the international financial publication Global Finance, which has just released its 26th annual World Safest Bank Awards list. Each year, Global Finance ranks the world's safest banks based on evaluations of long-term foreign currency ratings from global ratings agencies Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. Global Finance's list of the world's 50 safest commercial banks is Germany's DZ Bank. This highly anticipated annual list of the world's 50 safest banks also names the world's safest banks by country, the world's 50 safest commercial banks, 50 safest banks in emerging markets, safest Islamic financial institutions in the Gulf Cooperation Council, and safest banks by region. Moving on, the 122nd China Import and Export Fair, commonly known as the Canton Fair, opened in South China's Ganzhou province Sunday, drawing around 25,000 companies as exhibitors. Organizers say that more than 160,000 types of products are on display at more than 60,000 booths in an area of nearly 1.2 million square meters. Held in the provincial capital of Ganzhou every spring and autumn, the event is seen as a barometer of China's foreign trade. Spokesperson for the fair says that China's foreign trade has maintained its momentum to stabilize and improve after a continuous decline in the past few years. Data from the General Administration of Customs shows that the country's foreign trade volume rose 16.6% in the first 3 quarters of this year. The import exhibition zone of the fair had attracted 341 companies from 17 countries and regions along the Belt and Road Initiative, which was proposed by China in 2013 to connect Asia's economic circle at one end and Europe at the other, and then extending it further to other regions. Still on China, now China's trade with countries along the Belt and Road increased rapidly in the first 3 quarters of 2017. Now, according to the spokesperson of the Chinese General Administration,